Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Love Fruit podcast. Today we have another great guest, and this is Katya Kulkova. And Katya is a raw vegan, but also has been a national team level kayaker for the Russian national team. And now she helps people. She's a health coach and a nutritionist, helping people heal on a raw vegan style diet. Katya, is there anything else you'd like to say about yourself before we go ahead and ask you more questions?
You pretty much introduced me, and I was in national team for freestyle kayaking, and this is actually how I went into changing my diet. So it's very much related to the sport. I wasn't health conscious, or it wasn't that much about veganism or vegetarianism at all. So.
Excellent. So how did your story look then? How were you brought up? What was your diet? How did you end up where you are at now? What does that look like, that journey?
Yeah, so I was brought up in Siberia. In Novosibirsk, which is the biggest city of Siberia, and it's a cold climate, it's a long winter, and so the traditional diet was pretty regular, lots of grains and bread and some meat, but it was like Soviet Union, so no one was able to afford too much meat. But we did use milk products every day. Oh, come on. And it was pretty regular diet, and for long stretches of the year we didn't have that much fresh produce. It wasn't the time of supermarkets or anything, but in the summer we would have a summer house, so we would grow our own vegetables and greens and some berries and some of the fruit. Even it's cold climate, but it's pretty abundant in summer.
Yeah.
We would grow our potatoes and carrots and cabbages for the whole year, and some beetroots and sweets and stuff like this. And we would pickle cucumbers and tomatoes for the whole year. So when I was little, I was born with a liver condition. So when I was little, I was pretty sick very often, and I had a allergy, like skin allergy, skin rashes and eczema, and I was constipated. I remember when I was a kid so often.
Yeah.
And I had headaches as well, very, very regular, and I also had a high brain pressure, and they didn't even want to let me into a swimming pool when I was little, and they said like no swimming or water sports. And I loved water very much. And and the doctor at some point recommended to my parents, you go get your piece of land and grow your own vegetables, so your kid will not be allergic to them.
Oh, wow.
And they did, and actually I wasn't allergic to any of this, but to normal like things you buy from the store, I was allergic.
Wow.
And so it did help to some extent, but then still throughout my growing up years and even in university, I had eczema on my hands because my liver was weak and because my diet wasn't optimum, and I did suffer from constipation, and it's very much related. So usually people who have slow bowel movements or constipation, they have skin problems. That's inevitable because there's lots of toxicity being released, and liver, especially if it's naturally weak, cannot filter it all.
Right.
And then it comes up through the skin. Your body tries to clean through the skin. So when I was 20, maybe 5 or 6, I started to read books about different diets, about fasting, about doing something to your health. And then in 2009, 2010, we was living in Uganda. We was training there with my husband at that time. He wasn't the husband. He was, we was in a relationship. We was training together, and we was having a very relaxed lifestyle in terms of we was drinking plenty of alcohol. We would like maybe smoke some weed and like party and eat whatever is there.
Yeah.
Like no concern about like high fat, low fat, animal products, whatever. We would just enjoy our life being young and not always making best choices. And my husband was getting malaria pretty often. Yeah. He had malaria, I don't know how many times, 7 times or whatever.
Really? Wow.
Many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also at some point we started to kind of get bored from this lifestyle because when you're drinking regularly, it kind of gets repetitive.
Yeah.
And then we noticed that our performance it's not really moving forward, and we started to get motivated to compete better, to perform better. So we started to look for things what could be done, and I read one book, Russian one, and there was some mention of raw diet, and then my husband read Kelly Slater's book. It's the world champion surfer, 11 times world champion, and he was mentioning raw diet there as well. And I thought I would try. And also at this point in Uganda, I was starting to kind of gain weight. I was training for like 5 hours a day.
Wow.
And I was still gaining weight, and it wasn't very nicely distributed. So I was like getting bigger shoulders and fat tissue around my waistline, so I didn't like it. So I felt I give it a go, this raw diet, and then I started basically eat lots of salads and fruit, and in Uganda it's very easy. It's like very nice pineapples and mangoes and all other vegetables actually very nice. So I would like have pineapple in the morning and then go training and then eat something there a little bit and come back and have a big salad and a smoothie. And in just like couple of weeks, I felt so much better. I felt much more energy. I felt like energetic and like I'm just not sleepy and not running out of it. And also I started to lose weight very nicely and rapidly. And like I could see like my face is better, everything is better. And I thought, oh, this seemed to be working. And so basically I continued like this. But not like 100%. Some days 100%, sometimes less. I wasn't that into like being strict to something, but I could definitely see the effect. And then even my husband said, oh, maybe I'll give it a go. And he tried it, and it also had the same effect. And at some point I thought, well, let's just continue. It was one time, maybe after 3 or 4 months on this diet, it was Christmas, and we paid for the Christmas dinner before, like in advance, I don't know, maybe months or 2 months before. And it was Christmas dinner, it was like everything there, lots of meats and sausages and whatever, and I ate everything. And next day I was so sick. I was like, oh my God, it was like, I'm not sure I had a fever, but I definitely couldn't eat anything. I was just so poisoned. And at that point I realized that, my body cannot take this abuse anymore. Especially for last 3 or 4 months it was resting from that. And now it's just, it doesn't digest it very well, and I can definitely see the effect of it.
Yeah. So
this probably was the last time I ate meat in a huge amount. And this was 2010.
Right.
So, and in 2011 we was preparing for World Championship in Germany, and we had like a half a year to prepare, and this is the time when we got serious. and we was training, and we was like doing exercises every day to support our training, and this is where we like really stuck to the raw diet. And in the beginning we did include raw fish, but then after several months it kind of naturally went away because we didn't feel like we needed or wanted. But it wasn't definitely anything to do with being vegan or vegetarian. Like we didn't have this vegan bias then at all. So it was purely based on performance and how we feel. And so what we noticed, we started to recover much more quickly compared to other people. They was having injuries all the time, and they was also sleeping for like, I don't know, 12, 13 hours a day. And we started to sleep less because our body was able to recover. Our sport is very heavy on the body, especially that particular sport was very heavy on the body because the water is a very violent element.
Yeah.
And they are like you like being shaked all the time and thrown around. And so how quick you recover, this is how good you can train. And people have teared muscles and teared shoulders and all the time, like a little things and like something in the back, and we didn't really had any of this. And as a result, my husband won the world championship in 2011, and from then we just kept on it with occasional, like we would try this and try that, try to include some cooked grains, didn't work. Try to include some cooked vegetables, didn't quite work. And like going here and there, like more into plant-based movement, not like it was working for us very well. And eventually, we arrived to where we are now, which is we intermittent fast till basically 12 or 1 o'clock every day, sometimes a bit later. So we usually don't eat anything in the morning, and then we eat, and first meal is usually more fruit, second meal is more salads, but it's really how you feel. And we do drink a lot and make like lots of green smoothies and juices. And with being athletic, I think is very important, because at some point you just want greens, you want vegetables, you want minerals basically, and your body will tell you. If you don't do enough exercise, then you might not notice it. But if you do enough, at some point it will tell you, go eat it. And so since then things shifted dramatically in our health. My husband got rid of migraines. He went off coffee, which was a long time ago, and this was related to his migraines. And then he recovered his back, which is, he had that broken twice, his spine.
Oh, wow, really?
Because of kayaking and some not very clever decisions in a young age. He had his back hurting for a number of years, and then we took up some stretching, and this helped a lot. And probably diet also helped, and he completely recovered from this. I recovered from my eczema, from headaches, no constipation anymore, finally. And we just don't get sick anymore. There is no colds, no viruses, no infections, which is very relevant in Uganda, for example, or in the hot climates, because people get malaria and we don't.
Yeah.
We don't get malaria.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there was one instance in 2013, so it's 2 years into our raw vegan journey. Everybody in Uganda, we was living on a little island, everybody was getting malaria. And my husband at some point in the morning decided that he wanted to try something cooked, and he ate cooked eggs, and I think it was like some like potatoes or like hash brown or whatever, something like this. And in a few hours he got malaria symptoms.
Oh wow.
And he got malaria that day, and then he had to take medication because it's pretty serious there. You
Yeah.
can die from it. And what it means, that malaria was in his blood, but it wasn't able to multiply. It's a parasite which will multiply as soon as your immune system goes down.
Right.
For an hour, for 2.5 hours, if it goes down, it will start to multiply. And then when it's multiplied to a particular amount, this is where it will get serious. So it means it was in his blood for a while, because mosquitoes are everywhere and everybody was getting sick. So he had it, but he wasn't getting sick because his immune system was up. But as soon as he ate this cooked meal, just one cooked meal, and important stuff there is fried fats, really low in your immune system, and cooked animal products. It was, I think, fried eggs. And he went down, he got malaria. I didn't get malaria then. Yeah, but since then we learned this, and he never get malaria afterwards, and me neither.
And so when, approximately when did you kind of, after that, at what point do you think both of you were consistently on a raw and vegan diet from that point?
I would say we was consistent, pretty consistent all the time, apart from like short stretches.
Yeah.
So maybe at some point in maybe 2015, 2016, when all these plant-based movements start to kick in.
Yeah.
And my husband was following it, and he got affected by the marketing, and he is like, oh, why don't we try include some cooked grains and maybe some buckwheat and millets and stuff like this. And we did try, and he was having like a porridge in the morning and then going training,
Yeah.
and then coming back. But what he noticed, that his energy level start to go up and down,
Yeah.
and it was very stable on the raw diet.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I noticed, that I had my eczema back, and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So we kind of stopped it. And since then, maybe sometimes in the winter we would try some cooked vegetables, but it's very, very much, very occasional. That's basically entertainment. It's not like something we would build our bodies from. And nowadays, it's 100% raw.
So, and as an athlete, how has that impacted your performance and everything else? What do you think are the benefits for an athlete of eating a raw diet?
Well, first of all, it's recovery. It's no doubt that recovery is improved hugely. It's already will improve if you go vegan, but it will improve dramatically if you go raw food.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is consistent energy level. So in our sport, for example, you compete sometimes several times a day, usually 2 times a day, or today and tomorrow, or today and any other day, and it could be at any random time. So you have to make sure that your energy level at this point is up. And this is what my husband was struggling with for years, that it was going up and down. And when it's up, it's great. But when it goes down, and then he has to compete at this point, he would really underperform.
Right.
And on a raw diet, it just became high and consistent.
Right.
And this is what everyone noticed. And then later on, when I started to do some running, I noticed, I always hated running. When I was younger, I hated running, and I started to do it in 2018, and I progressed into ultra running, and even did one double marathon, double ultramarathon means 2 days, 50K every day, and it's up and down. So it's a trail. It's not flat. It's really up and down with serious elevation. So it would take like you 7-8 hours to complete, depends on the weather condition and terrain. But the thing is, you have energy all the time, and you not even necessarily sometimes need to eat to sustain it. You just have it. And I wasn't very trained for it or anything, but I could do it. And I can see that just any other person on this diet could do it. Just your capabilities become so much higher, what you can achieve in whatever sport you do. You just do it with less effort, your body recovers better, and important thing, you don't get as much injuries. Injuries is big in our sport, especially like a minor ones, and we didn't really have that many. Like I could say for myself, I didn't have any, probably. And my husband had very few and very minor. He never would like go out of the training for a long time because of injury, which is quite common in our sport. It really sets you back.
Sure. Well, and what would be some of your advice for people that are beginning on this diet?
For beginners, I would say start gradually, because I know many cases when people are very motivated, they're like, okay, yes, I will try this raw diet and I will just go into it 100% overnight right now. And it will work out for maybe 2% of the people. But for the rest of 98%, it will not work out, because your microbiome will not change overnight. It takes time. Your habits will not change over time.
Yeah.
Your taste buds not gonna clean up over time. It takes time. So, for example, my mother, she transitioned to fully raw. She is 69. She's doing great. She did it in like last 8 years, and it took her a few years to transition to fully raw. She did it very slowly, but because of it, it wasn't any health issues elevation. They was gradually going down, and eventually she got rid of everything. She had all the issues, and she started to become more and more energized. She started to do more exercise, and then she took up diving 5 years ago in the age of 64. Now she's deep water diver. She can go down 40 meters. And she took up running because it suddenly became easy and even pleasant. She always hated it, and it was difficult when she was 30. So these kind of changes, they're not going to happen very quick. It takes time. You just need to be consistent and be ready to, you know, that you will be coming forward and backward a little bit, but just keep going forward, and you will arrive there, you know, eventually. It doesn't matter how long it takes, it's still worth it. Don't just give up because, okay, I did it for 1 week and then I had something cooked and then it all went, you know, then I gave up. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what you did, what you had, like, it doesn't matter. Just keep going, include as much fresh fruits, vegetables, greens, juices, green smoothies in whatever shape. It's easy, like, get some nice raw cookbooks, like use some simple recipes, or like find the meals which are very you very like and you really enjoy, so you don't feel like you restrict yourself. It has to be in abundance, really. Like for us, I can say that now we enjoy our food more than we ever did. We like, just honestly, I could say it brings me more pleasure than anything I ever had. and this is why I'm able to stay on it. If person feels like it's restricting itself, it's not gonna work out. But in the beginning, it might feel this way.
So, you tell us about your the whole journey of you becoming a nutritionist, a health coach, and all these things. Where did all that come in?
So because my health changed so dramatically in these years, because I noticed that I stopped being sick. When we was living in Uganda, it's hot tropical climate, very humid, and all the little cuts and bites, they was becoming infected for many people. And what we noticed when we switched the diet, suddenly in like a very short space of time, they stopped to get infected. So we like forgot even about all the antiseptics and all these like little things you have to carry with you, and really relaxed, became very relaxed about like all the cuts, and like if I cut my hand or something, I always cover in cuts because I'm physically active. I never put anything on top of it. I just know it's never gonna get infected. And then if I go around person who has a virus or something, I not stress about it. I never gonna get infected. I know if I keep my immune system how it is now, without like if I don't eat something, unnatural. And I saw all this, and I saw my mom's change, and it was so profound that I thought that's something meaningful I want to do. So I first of all I kind of tried do a raw vegan business in terms of food. So I was making raw vegan cakes to order. It's like a short term something just to try. And then I said, no, that's way too labor demanding. I did it for a year in UK. And also, that's not really the healthy side of it.
Sure.
Raw vegan desserts, I mean, it's probably better than chocolate cakes, but it's still not the healthiest thing to do. And I had enough of this, and now maybe I make a raw vegan cake once or twice a year after this experience. But then, I started to learn about nutrition, and then I completed the plant-based course in Colin Campbell's course.
Sure.
And then I started to study more after that, and then I started to work with volunteers, and this is really what elevated my interest, because when you work with people with real health conditions, especially things like cancer, which is kind of serious, and then you see them recover and get better on a particular dietary changes, is so inspiring. And the thing is, the real value is our health. The
Sure.
most basic value is our life, and the health is just the length of your life.
Mm-hmm.
If you can invest in this, that's the best investment you can do. So I go in this direction, and it's super interesting, and I study all the time, and listen lectures and stuff, and I just very, very inspired to see how it works. So I've been fortunate to work with several cancer cases, and with people with gangrena, with people with serious like heart disease, autoimmune disease, and it's always same result. People get better as long as they stick to a particular diet which is natural to our humankind, and then they get much worse if they go into cooked foods, and especially cooked animal products.
Right.
And sometimes they get worse so rapid that it's just it's very, very overwhelming to see these kind of things. in next several years we will see where I can take it. I have plans for it, but for now I move in this direction, and I am finishing my several fins at the moment. Like I write in the book is almost finished with the recipes and a little bit of theory before it, and hopefully here in Thailand I will be able to finish it. And then and several courses. So at the moment I work with people writing a personalized programs with conditions, like specific conditions like heart disease, eczema, high blood sugar, autoimmune diseases, and the weight loss as well. If people want, they can book a consultation with me, and a short consultation is free, and I just explain you how I work and everything. And we develop a website which is masteringhumanbehavior.com, and you can also connect to me on Facebook and Instagram. It's just my name, Katya Kulkova. And you can follow my husband as well. He has an Instagram account, and at the moment he is heavily juicing for his parents because of all this COVID-19 situation, and his parents are around 70, so it's very useful for them to keep their immune system up. So he's there, I'm here. Situation is interesting, but it's not a bad place to be stuck. Here, Kopangan, very enjoying all these fruits here, and the coconuts and vegetables as well.
Yeah, so you're originally from Russia.
Yes.
And I believe that despite what people think, there is a bit of a raw food movement in Russia, and there are people that have written books about the raw food diet in Russian and things like that. So what can you tell us? Do you know much about that, the movement over there, and how that's presented in Russia?
So the movement kind of develops naturally in every country, but in Russia it's quite popular. I would say it's just not organized.
Right.
We don't have like a fruit festivals or anything like this. We do have like a community of raw foodists who like to live in the warm climates, gather together and eat lots of fruit and some greens and vegetables, and I know them personally, but I don't really do that much in the Russian raw food movement, because it's, first of all, it's not organized properly. Kind of like people starting this diet here and there. It's a huge natural interest because it works. But they not really, the thing is, we didn't develop organized ways to connect to each other, and I think this is really to do it. Like everyone needs to do it, to connect to people who are living the same lifestyle. Otherwise, it gets difficult. With being isolated from some kind of community who support your values, it's difficult. And that's one of the main reasons why people fail to stick to it long term, because the social environment they live in is very different and it's not supportive. It's like, if you live in an environment which is people don't exercise around you, then it would be hard for you to start exercising, but however it's good for you. If you live in an environment when everybody is active, you'll naturally be active. And the same thing with diet. If diets are unhealthy around you, you will be affected. You'll feel cravings which are not necessarily yours and not necessarily best for your health.
So what do you think are some of the mistakes that you see people make when they're trying to do this kind of lifestyle?
So there is several mistakes, and some of them more obvious, like don't start too rapid, or don't do any too drastic things too soon unsupported. For example, go for a long-term water fast or dry fasting without a proper supportive environment, like not in a special program or a special place where specialists monitoring what's going on and get you out of this state safely. People who do that, there is a dietary behavior disorder which might come after this, not because something to do with them, it's just to do with hormones and particular chemicals in the body. But if you start gradually change your diet, include more and more fresh stuff, and exclude heavy and heavily processed products, then you will be moving towards right direction. And educate yourself. So one of the biggest things what people don't do is not enough education. You need to read books, you need to follow people who have a big experience in raw movement, who have scientific background, who may be doctors, because you don't want to invent bicycle, every time. Someone has already invented it, so you just read the instruction. You will find it very useful. So 80-10-10 is a good book, and many other raw food coaches, and I don't know, you name some. There's many. I just don't remember on top of my head, but Doug Graham is his books are very something where you need to start from.
Sure.
Very good. And follow people who did it for a long time, and see what they eat, because there is all sorts of deviations in this diet, and you can go like very restrictive, just on fruit alone, or like no fruit altogether, and neither of them is too healthy, in my opinion, and in my practical experience. So it has to be a balance, and you have to understand how your physiology works in order to make the best choices. So one more thing, what I can say about mistakes on a raw diet, it's not really a mistakes, but it's the issue which can come up, especially for people who are athletic, because we did sports in our life to extent where you deplete your body, like from fat tissue, from calories, even particular minerals. And what happens then is very interesting, and it's very unusual. So when I was running in Russia, we did like a little project with one of the girls who I was working with her health, 700 kilometers around Black Sea. And we was doing it mostly on fruit, just because it was convenient, because there was lots of fruit around. It was season, it was hot climate, it was lots of watermelons and grapes, and also vegetables and harsh fibers. If you run every day, it's not very suitable. You can't even eat carrot because it's like a heavy stone in your stomach when you run. You want all the fibers to be very soft. So we was on a diet with no greens, because there wasn't any greens around, and very low vegetables. And after 1.5 months of this diet and extensive running and significant weight loss, I felt like eating animal products for first time in 7 years on my vegan journey. And I felt real cravings for like salmon and eggs, and I felt that something is going on here, something fishy going on. And the thing what was going on, I got low on minerals, and even my iron got a little bit low, not like dangerously low or anything, but just because it was only fruit and it wasn't sufficient. And I also wanted greens and vegetables so severely. I came back to England, I ate like maybe 5 heads of broccolis a day. I ate garlic, like I didn't eat garlic for maybe a few years, and after this I came back and I started to eat garlic. And there is things like potassium and sulfur, iron, magnesium, they are important. And who knows what else, like your body figuring it out all the time. But if you get deficient on something, even omega-3s, omega-6s, if you get deficient on omegas, you'll get egg cravings. And you need to address these things, otherwise you get off the diet, because you will feel like, okay, I want to eat eggs, I want to eat animal products. You eat it, you feel better, and
just to confirm, is that during the time that you were doing the 700 kilometer?
After.
After you were doing
Yeah,
that?
after. I lost pretty much all my extra fat on the body. I lost like probably 7 kilos from where I started.
Sure.
And I got deficient on particular minerals, just because, you know, it wasn't quite by choice that I wouldn't eat greens. But it wasn't just greens around. It was dry. End of summer, it was like all gray in terms of all the greens wasn't there, and we was running with the little rucksacks, was moving from place to place. We couldn't have blender or anything like this, or even make salads. It was just very, very rare occasional thing when we stayed at someone's. So what people have, this like sometimes animal cravings or something severe when they get off the diet, it means some deficiency coming, or they just physically very active and their diet is not meeting their needs. They need like sometimes more protein, sometimes more minerals, sometimes more omegas. They need to address it.
And if people want to learn more about you, Katya, where can they find you and more about what you teach?
I have a website which is called masterinhumanbehavior.com, where you can read about consultations which I give. I give a 50% discount to all raw foodists just because I want them to succeed. And then I have an Instagram account, Katya Kulkova, and a Facebook account, which also just my name, Katya Kulkova. And that's where you can find me.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us today, Katya.
It was a pleasure.
And everyone check out what she's doing at our website. And please feel free to leave a comment or rate this podcast or video, and let us know if you enjoyed it and if you'd like to see us interview Katya again. And we'll see you in another episode. If you want to learn more about the raw vegan lifestyle, you can go to fruitfest.co.uk and you can join our newsletter there, or you can register for the festival at fruitfest.co.uk/registration. Thank you for listening today, and we'll see you in another episode of the Love Fruit Podcast.